6:30 and anything else we need.
Like full house.
Yeah. Try to find a seat.
Want to get some more chairs?
Good morning,
Morning.
all 20 of you and a few people online. Friday, December 7th or February 7th already. Code of conduct item of the week, works of OSHA, FRA, and ECI safety standards. Sometimes they get confusing, sometimes they get contradictory, but make sure you're keeping them in mind and then talk to everybody and make sure you're understanding what the right method to do something is. If you have any question. Safety news, we did unfortunately have a recordable injury in the past week. It was another slip and fall on ice. Today's arguably the iciest day we've seen in a long time. So pay a lot of attention today to your feet and where you're walking and what you're doing. More positive note though, we are 264 days without an injury case that resulted in days away from work. So we're getting some injuries, but we're not. People are going home safe every end of the day, and people are continuing to stay employed and stay working and adding value. So that's a positive on, you know, that's just not something that's not so positive on having another incident. And just a statistic, 6 out of 12 of our last 12 injuries have been fall related and falling from either straight on the ground or short heights, a couple feet or less. So that's a good reminder that that's definitely our biggest exposure. I know Matt says that all the time. So pay close attention to the surfaces you're on, get the right boots, get the right footwear and the attachments to your boots, salt, sand, scrape the ice away, whatever you need to do. You can't stress it enough. We'll go through aerial lifts today. It's kind of a not so relevant topic, but it's something we're looking to make sure we do refreshers on regularly. So I'll go through a few things real quick. One of the biggest things working with aerial lifts, first and foremost, is getting some training and familiarization with the equipment that you're working on. Our Genie lift has all of the operating manual and it has a lot of the instructions posted right on it. They should be legible. If they're not, we can get new stickers and get them replaced. But first time operating it, have somebody take you through it. Especially if you got a rental too, those guys should be able to take you right through it as well. So that's a good free service that comes with, you know, any typical aerial lift rental is some how-to session. Take a few minutes. Don't have an ego. Don't think you can operate anything and then hop in these things and think you can run it like anything else. They are a little tricky sometimes, and they're definitely they definitely have their ways of moving. Make sure we know our operating limits. In our particular Genie lift, we've got a maximum allowable side impact force of 150 pounds, which is not very much. You know, so these are not meant to be pushing on anything. They're not meant to be leaning against anything. They're not looking to, don't try to push, a tree or a branch or something too much out of the way. And then they have a 500-pound two-person maximum loading in our basket. So that's just a quick 500 pounds with 2 people in it. You can get to pretty quick with a little bit of tool, a little bit of material. Don't think you're going to go and put 1,000 pounds worth of material on this thing and lift it up either. You're going to be way over automatically, especially with another person in the basket. So that's something to be considering. Some of the other baskets on some of the bigger lifts will certainly have higher capacities. I'm not sure if there's such a thing as a 3-person basket lift. But just make sure you're abiding by that, because those are not, remember, these things are big catapults. So you load them wrong and you got a big extension arm that can do a lot of damage. Again, on operating limits, understand what range of motion and what size lift your lift has is rated for, what distances and lengths and reach. Obviously, 60, typically a 60-foot lift, straight out, we'll have almost 60 feet, probably closer to like 55 maximum reach straight out. And then obviously as you go up, that radius decreases. So when you're ordering a lift for your job or when you're trying to spec something out for a specific task, make sure you have the geometry understood. Sometimes we are trying to get underneath something. Sometimes we're trying to get up and over something. And obviously they make other rigs that have different articulating arms on it as well. So choose the right lift for the job. And I will say, you know, the folks at United Rentals and some of these other places that we rent from often, they know these things pretty well. So you give them a little bit of idea on the geometry of your site and what you need, and they're usually pretty good about helping you spec out the right
So ours
one.
does not have that knuckle at the end shown.
Exactly, yeah, ours does not have, well, no, it does not, you're right. It just has one pivot, but some of them even have
Right, some do. though.
an additional 1 or 2 knuckles that can really get up and over and around things if you need it. And then our rig is around 20,500 pounds, just so everybody knows. It's in 35% gradability. So these things can climb pretty well, but that's not climb and operate. You really need to be on a flat, level surface when you're operating these things. So
It's a challenge going any kind of grade, even with,
it is,
Even
even with the
just-
track lift as well.
yeah.
Know your surroundings. First and foremost, know what's underneath you. These things are heavy. There is a massive counterweight on this thing that will do some damage if it's not in the right spot. 10-foot clearance from overhead lines, pretty standard. I know we also use these lifts to actually service a lot of overhead aerial things. So make sure that's 10-foot clearance from any energized line. If you're servicing a line for any reason, or if you're using our bucket trucks and that type of thing, which would also classify as an aerial lift, the line should be de-energized and verified. Watch your counterweight swing, watch trucks around you, watch trees, watch other structures. Sometimes it is difficult when you're in the basket trying to swing around. You can't really tell where that ass end is exactly. So get spotters, have people help you out. And if you see somebody operating it and they're having a blind spot, jump in and help get them guided. Watch for bumps or obstructions on the ground. That's a big one. Even a little bump. You got like a 4x4 on the ground, just randomly placed, and this thing could go up and over it. That could really end up being a big bump in the basket. By the time you got a little bit of tilt at the rig itself, 50 feet out in the basket, that could be a 4-foot bounce up and down real quick. So really make sure you're aware of what's on the ground around you, clean it out ahead of time. Soft spots in the ground. You got one muddy section, you got one solid gravelly section. Obviously, it's going to sink real quick out of sight. So, and then once you start tipping, that center of balance gets off really, really quick, and you can really get yourself into a tricky situation. And then keep track of your center of gravity. We can prove it out mathematically, but it's also when you're in the basket, it's kind of a stomach thing. It's kind of a knowing where you are. Don't have your counterweight in the wrong direction and then compounded by having your basket and your moment arm swinging in the wrong direction. Make sure when you're really operating it and really moving up and down in the boom and extending in and out, make sure you're at that level surface. So then you can really just let the controls and let the computer know where it's at without any other outside factors. They are pretty smart though. They usually don't let you go up or down or extend out beyond its capacity. Keep the work area clean in the basket. Don't lift with the basket. A couple 100 pounds, with some material, bolts and things like that. I know we often have kegs of bolts that we're bringing up with us in the basket, but don't lift beams up. Don't try to put an upward force on something that you're trying to put overhead. They're not meant for that. Fall protection, gotta wear a harness, whether you're working in it at height, whether you're loading it on and off the truck, whether you're just driving it around the yard to park it in a different location, gotta have a harness on. That's a requirement with a lanyard tied off to the basket. And then get the setup right. I know we've all probably done this, once or twice at least inside these baskets, but get the setup right. Don't be standing up. Don't put ladders in these things either. And then another one is you're technically not supposed to exit the basket unless you're on the ground. There are some loopholes to that and the right conditions with the right securement, but traditionally and most commonly, you're not supposed to ever exit the basket when you're up at height. If we have a condition where we want to do that, we can set it up properly. And that's any questions or comments? Good. Hand it over again.
Use the fixed length lanyard in those, right?
Inside,
Yeah.
I don't, you can use a retractable as well. Anything you have, as long as it has the, what,
It can't be a regular length lanyard, though. You could call it out.
with the 6 foot.
It's put down retractable or short.
Well, unless you can tie it off at your feet. Most of them have a hook at the foot as well. I don't remember where ours is. If it's, ours might be next to the basket. Is it, Mitt?
I think it was a picture of one of the last pictures and somebody working out of it, right?
Yeah, that was a scissor.
One of ours, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was trying to.
There's the basket.
But yeah, so you want to make sure you definitely want to make sure if you did get that little catapult action, that your tie off is not higher than your feet and you're going to just go sailing and swim around. That's a good point. Thank you, Fred and Jason.
In the open one.
Not open. Okay. Thanks, Troy. Let's see here. Announcements real quick. Coming up, we'll have a company holiday for President's Day. That's the 17th, a Monday. So make sure we get the timesheets in early on that Tuesday after or immediately before, like a few days before on Friday would even be better. So we need to get the process is a little tight for accounting that week, so we need to be helpful for them. And also the Vermont City Marathon, our bank is People's United Bank, and they gave us a free relay team membership. And so we're calling all runners if anyone's interested. It's the 24th, which is that a Saturday?
It's a Sunday.
Sunday? Yeah. And it's a 26.2 mile standard marathon distance throughout Burlington, and there are 5 relay legs. So we got 3-4, 5-7, 6-3, and 5-4, and 5-4. So runners of all abilities are, encouraged to sign up. There's we're not really in it to win, let's say that. Right? And this shows the course. It's really it is a great course for sure. Starts in let's see, right, where does it start? Back in Burlington. I'm still in North Burlington there. But it starts right here on like Battery Street, I think that is here. And then you go up and around through downtown, and then you come back and you hit a lot of the south end, you go to the north end and the bike path and everything. It really is a great run. And for projects this week, we're highlighting the water breaks. I'll click this real quick. We've got a new listening device, and it's kind of useful for people to know about it here. So it's a little video, YouTube video. It's a German company. I think they have a video, but it's music. I guess that's Brian Labonte right there, waiting for the call to come in. See if I can. There we go. Oh, you got the calls. So the idea is you can work in congested areas. There's lots of activities going on. And it's an acoustical device. So they got a water problem here. No water. Well done, little video. This is an orange case, all self-contained. Must be some recharging cards. Is Brian here today? Here.
Doing that.
Yeah.
It's only got 3 fingers.
What? Aquaphone, is that what they call it? some kind of background noise cancellation that allows them to focus on, which is, you know, it is meant for urban areas. You isolate it and then work your way right down.
This is something we don't know.
We own, yep.
How deep will it be detected?
I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it'll do anything within the depths for our normal water.
It's a sound device, correct?
Yeah, it's an acoustic device. Just turn the volume up. The baby's crying in the background. Went down a little bit. There, he found it. Despite all the noise. Well done, little video there. Okay, let's see. I gotta get back to screen.
Explorer.
What do we do? Okay. Oh, the internet. Explorer. This one. Okay. Right here. Okay, so also we're showing some pictures here below of the water break we did at Eastview Condos in Williston. That's on the other side of Agway area. So the water was coming up from the middle of the road. This one was a little kind of obvious, but the break was located about 10 feet up to the side where the water was coming to the surface. And unfortunately, there was no working gate valve right near the break. Pull down here for the read it, but the shut off, they had to shut off the water, complete a repair, and required us to go back to transmission line and shut down quite a bit of that area. And then CWD, of course, was involved in coordinating that shutdown. Responded at 5:30 p.m. that day. It was like, what, Sunday was it, or Saturday night? Saturday into Sunday morning, I guess, 6:30. Can't remember now. Okay, so there's a mess that happens, of course, when we have water in certain cases. It's the ground pretty good. And the little light tower work wasn't terribly cold the other night. Pretty much a gusher. And this is the damaged pipe. It's hard to make out what exactly we're looking at there. And then this was a piece of stone that caused it. It was actually, the stone actually wore to the shape of the pipe. The iron pipe. And from the photo archives, this is a grade crossing. I think this is probably one of the silent grade crossings in Shelburne and South Burlington. Mike Shanholtz, or can't tell, might have been Zeb, might be one of those guys, I can't tell. And then that guy, I think, is a railroad guy, road inspector. So we got, be safe out there. It is slippery. It's gonna get worse, so be ready for it. Brian Martell. Ken Howard. John Ashton. Jeff Barber. Johnny Green. John Burke.